Hi, I'm Nick and this is the TBT channel. Now, I have in front of me, you may recognise this if you've watched my videos, been watching the channel, you'll recognise this gun. It is a Diana Model 56 TH, Target Hunter, I believe the TH stands for. You will have seen me get one of these rifles, strip it down, fix the trigger and put it back together again. Then you'll have seen me with the same gun strip it down and change the power from 6 foot-pounds to about 22, 23, something like that. And this isn't the same gun. I took that one back. I fixed it for Guns & Co, the gun shop that I use, half an hour north of Bordeaux, half an hour south of Angoulême on the N10, easy access and parking. I fixed it for one of their customers, and when I returned it, I came away with this one. Now, the Diana 56 TH isn't a gun I've come across much before. The first one I actually had my hands on was the last one I fixed. So when I returned that one and got given another one with seemingly the exact same problem, I thought, oh, the first one I'd thought it was a broken spring. Turned out to be the trigger. This one, I'm thinking it could be the trigger because the last one was, but maybe it's a broken spring. Who knows? We'll find out when we get inside of there. Last time I think I fixed the trigger off camera because what I did basically, I don't like triggers. I send mine to Black Max, Andy. He does my triggers. He's a Gnias when it comes to those. I don't like them. They're witchcraft. So I just took the trigger unit apart and then put it back together. And I didn't bother memorising because I knew it was wrong. I knew that it wasn't working, so I just took it apart, put it back together, and it worked. So if that is the case with this one, I'm going to show you. But before I start, this gun has been, what's today? Today is Wednesday. I picked this up on Friday, so that's 4 or 5 days. It's been stood up like that. Take a look at all of that oil there that's just dripped out of this gun. Now, you'll remember on the first one of these I took apart, there was no grease inside of it, just oil. I had been thinking, I don't need to strip this one totally down. I'm just going to take the trigger out and then we'll look at the trigger. But it's bogging. I mean, ugh, that is horrible. It's got oil in it, so I'm going to have to, I don't know whether that's all the customers put in there or whether it's come as, it's dripping, man. It's dripping. So we're going to take this apart, completely apart. We're going to siphon off all the oil and hopefully sell that and get a couple of barrels worth out of it, and then we'll see if we can find the problem. Just to show you before I start what I mean. Okay, cocking arm comes down. Now it's on the bear trap there, that's why it's stationary there, but it's not actually catching. So bear trap down, back up again, there's just nothing there, and there is a little bit of flop in that trigger, and this feels like a plastic trigger. This is a 2015 model. It's not an F model. It hasn't got the F stamp on here. So when it goes back together, it shouldn't be at 6 foot-pound, the German limit. But it is, again, it's a 177. There's nothing wrong with 177. If you shoot a 177, good for you. Right, let's take this apart, if I can remember how to. I'm hoping not to have to edit this. But if I get to a bit where I'm just sat there scratching my head, like trying to undo this screw, for example, to save you the boredom, I will skip it. What? It's just across. Oh, there we are. It's early in the morning. It is early in the morning. It's also January. It's still cold down here. I expect you're watching this on, I think the 7th of March is when I've got this penciled in for. I have been working like a little demon for the last couple of months to have enough videos to cover after my surgery, because I know I'm not even going to be able to get down here for a while, let alone make a video. That arm's got to be completely immobile for a considerable amount of time. Now I've got one metal washer to the front this time, and I've got one metal washer and one rubber washer to the back. It's different to the last time I did one of these. just put those in that order. Different to last time I did one of these. Maybe this one's been altered, maybe the other one was wrong, maybe they've just changed over time. But I will put those over there. Next, I need to let's have a look at this trigger. Why is that floppy? I think that C is simply round the wrong side of that part, but he doesn't move. Right, we're taking it apart anyway. We'll get in there, we'll burn that bridge when we get to it. So we get our favourite screwdriver, and what we need to do now, putting on our reading glasses, what we need to do now is remove the circlip on the cocking arm. Okay, no we don't. I'm going to remove the circlip on the link for the cocking arm first. I'm going to disengage this before I do that. So, take that off of there. Gosh, that's rather tight, as it were, misses. There's my little circlip or C-clip or E-clip, whichever it is. Putting that over there in my magnetic tin that holds all my little screws. It's a very surprisingly quiet magnetic tin that holds all my screws over there. So quiet, it doesn't even go ting when I put them in. Right, next I'm going to take off the larger one at the rear that holds the arm here on. Yeah, so in reality it's actually the end of January, but when you're watching this I'll be somewhere absolutely bricking it because I've got surgery in a few days. I hate the idea of it, I really do, and I'm not joking. I hate needles. Injections. When I have to have injections, there's always tears, screaming, fainting, tantrums. That's just when Karen's trying to get me in the car. I bloody hate them. Right, there's my pin that's holding on that arm there. So I'm really not looking forward to this. Next, we remove the arm, being careful, because at each end, each side of it, there is everything's just bogging. There's oil on everything. Look at that. I mean, ooh. I'm going to get some tissue. Some clean tissue, not soiled tissue, for my fingers, because this is absolutely heaving. Right. That is out. Disgusting, disgusting, disgusting. Now I want to remove, we've got two pins here holding the trigger unit in, and they hold all of the pressure of the spring as well. Now I think last time I did this, what I showed you, let's get back that on to support it. What I showed you was we knock one pin through, thusly, and then the other one, as I push it through, I'm going to leave the screwdriver in there. Now this is a parallel shanked screwdriver, ideal for this job. It's one of the reasons it's my favourite screwdriver. So once that goes through, screwdriver remains in place, and I can then put some downward pressure with the other shoulder, I'm guessing. Downward pressure, remove the screwdriver, and then let it up. Now we can immediately see this has more preload than the last one I did. Even after I'd fitted our 20-odd foot-pound kit into it, it had virtually zero preload. So this one should be running at full power. Oh my days. This is just nasty. So here we have, if you've got a Diana, and this is how they come out the factory, can you please leave me a comment below? Because I don't know if this is how it was sent out, or if the guys just got over enthusiastic with the WD-40. I mean, I'd stop working if I looked like this. There's that. Just going to wipe the worst of it off so it doesn't drip everywhere. Dripping. There. boy, oh boy, oh boy. Now, I haven't taken this part off yet. I'm just going to push that back so that I can withdraw the piston. Oh, look, that is, I don't get it. I don't understand. Please let me know if this is how they think it is reasonable to send a gun out. Please let me know. I can't see that a manufacturer would do this. I think this has to be oil that's been added in afterwards. But having said that, now on the piston you get witness marks, and that gives you an idea of how much it has been used over the years. This gun's 10 years old. There's the barest line around there. So I can tell you, given that this gun only has oil in it and no grease, this gun has not been used an awful lot. It probably diesel, banged, farted and blew smoke, and the guy who had it didn't like it. And that might be part of the problem as to why it's not cocking. I don't know. I do not know. But I am going to take this apart and degrease it all. It has to be done. It's not degreasing it. Degreasing is not the correct term in this case. We are mopping up the oil. That's what we're doing. Let's see what size Allen key do we need for this one. I think it's a 2.5, but I don't know if that is a 2.5. Oh, that's lucky. That's more than lucky. Right, so that is the correct size Allen key. This bit's going to take me a few seconds. This will be boring. See if I can think of any jokes. No, I won't do that. That would be unfair. If you're watching this and you feel the need to leave me a comment saying, God, you're boring, which some people do, that's fine. You can turn it off if you want. You know, I watch some bizarre things on YouTube. Nothing illegal, but definitely weird. But if I don't like something, I tend to stop watching it and go and do something else. I've never disliked anything enough to go to the trouble of telling somebody I dislike you. Doesn't bother me, but my daughter, who kind of runs the channel, deletes people sometimes. And I only found one of them was actually a friend of mine, and he put a comment on there taking the piss, as he does. And she deleted him from the thing. And he said, "What you deleted me for?" I said, "I haven't." And I checked, and no, she thought he was being nasty, so she deleted him. That was quite funny. Now that's got to be out. What am I doing wrong here? What is going on? It's a tedious thing, this little grub screw, because it's very, very awkward to reach into. It was undone, just stuck in place. Believe it or not, I know you're going to find this hard to believe. It was stuck in place with all the oil. Now that comes out. Every single component is coated in oil. There we go. Oh, now I've got a big clean-up operation to do it, and that's going to be boring for me, let alone you. So I am going to pause this while I wipe the oil up off of everything and wash my hands. Back in a moment. That's most of the oil gone, but it's still dripping out of the trigger because it's everywhere in there, absolutely everywhere. And this smells now of burnt oil. So whatever's happened, whatever the problem is has occurred, it wouldn't surprise me if it was dieseling that caused it. Dieseling is as it sounds. It's what happens if you compress oil. A diesel engine works by very high compression with heat of diesel oil, the actual fuel. And when it reaches a certain pressure and temperature, it detonates. And that can happen inside of a gun. because if you introduce oil or any solvent into it, in the compression stroke, during the compression stroke, the air is compressed so much it can reach temperatures of over 600 degrees centigrade within the compression tube. So the compression, the vapor from the oil and the temperature all together can produce the same effect as an engine and shoot the piston back up inside. And I believe what has happened is that has happened because of the amount of oil, because of the smell of burning oil. It shot it back up, smashed the piston back into the trigger, bent something, moved something, or spun something around. Now the sears all need to be in a particular order. If they're in the wrong order, they simply won't work. So if one's been spun 90 degrees out, which is what I suspect had happened in the other gun, that's what could have happened. Now when I try, what should happen, when you cock the gun is that, but I still have a floppy trigger there. So that part is latching, but this part here is actually the trigger sear, is this part here in front of the trigger. So if I set that, you hear that click, now the trigger isn't floppy, and when there's your first stage, and then the second stage, that should have dropped out of there. With pressure on it, that would have dropped out of there. But what's happening is, when you go to push that in, it's not actually setting, it's not going into the right position. And you can see the tops in, acrobatics from the screwdriver there, Diva. You can see the tops here through the top. So if you push that down, then it will go into position, okay? And that's great and that's groovy, but that isn't setting the trigger sear unless you do that. So whatever's, and again, if there was pressure, that would come out. Whatever is supposed to connect those two simply isn't. So that means I have to take this trigger unit apart. This will be edited, I'm certain, because there's going to be long periods of time with me just staring at it as I try and work out what's doing what. So we'll probably do a little bit of skippy forward in time, and we'll see where it goes. So the first thing we want to do is remove the safety. Now that just lifts out. Oh, it's covered in oil. And if you see, we've got a little spring there, okay, and a little pointy bit that sticks down there. Now that's all part of the safety, and that goes in that order. If you're ever taking anything apart that you're unsure of, take photographs as you go. I'm going to use this video. If I get stuck, I'm showing this to the camera so I can rewind this and I can have a look and say, oh, that's how that was supposed to be. So that's that part there. And I'm going to put him there. And I'm going to put every part in the relevant place to where the other ones were. That way, so much oil. That way, I should avoid getting myself into a muddle. Now, I've already checked that I can buy a replacement trigger unit for this, but it's 70 quid. So I really don't want to buy a replacement trigger unit for this if I can at all help it. Next, what do we have? Going slowly and carefully is the key here. There is no rush. For me at least. Maybe there is for you. A certain amount of get on with it. Right, I'm going to take the actual pin holding the trigger itself out. So there's that pin and there's the trigger dripping in oil. I'm going to sit that there. I'm going to put the pin into it. That way I know that was the pin for the trigger. Next I've got the central pin there, which is holding quite a long sear with a spring around this part here. So show the camera that, push that one through. Does that one want to be the next one? Yes it does. Yes it does. It might not believe it does. There we go. That comes out like that. So that was above the trigger there, like that. Now it's covered in oil and some kind of nasty residue. And we have the spring there. Where was that spring from? That spring is off of the trigger and sits in, there's a small circle detent for that spring there, so that goes behind the trigger there. Bam, 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 bam. Put it all in order like that, and it will help us when we come to do the rebuild. Next, there's one pin at the front. Now there's a lot of tension on that spring there, and I'm suspecting he is actually the culprit. So what I'm going to do, what's that connected to? I've got a plate here that was in the centre of the plastic of the safety. This is obviously the actual safety itself, and that goes all over the shop inside of there, bent round here, over there, through there. And I'm going to have to see if that is the shape it should be, because it is bent. Let me just see if I can push that pin through there, which I can. There we go. There's the pin from the front, and then this part here comes out. If I set the trigger the way around it was, that is 2 springs on this piece here, that way round, and they go in the front hole there with that pin. And now my safety catch comes out there, which is that way around everything, and the top sear is now still inside, but that's moving backwards and forwards, hinged on a single pin running through it. Do I have anything small enough to poke that through? It's quite a small one. Poke that through there, and he is out, covered in oil, obviously. And he went in the orientation that sear there, or that point there, is what catches the piston as it comes back, catches onto the latch rod. So that goes there, and the spring on the top of this part, there's a small circular recess there, and that sits on there. So that's how they sit in location inside of the unit. Now nothing is broken, nothing is obviously worn. I'm dubious as to the angle on the front of this, safety catch. I don't know if that's supposed to be that. So what I'm going to do now is go on Tinterwebs and do some research on this. Then I'm going to chuck everything into my ultrasonic cleaner to clean all the crud off of it. I have an ultrasonic cleaner for my reloading. That's how I clean the cases. So I'm going to clean those in that. Then I'm going to start playing with the trigger unit, and I will come back to you when I've hopefully figured this out. Yes, that's what I'll do. I've had a closer inspection after wiping all the oil off, and I was right. If we come in close on this part here, let me just see if I can focus on it. There we go. You can see those stress fractures. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Stress fractures on that part there. So that has indeed been smashed by the dieseling, and that is about to fail. I don't think that's the correct angle, and it's just buggered, so it needs another trigger. So that's going to be all for this video, because it's long enough. You've suffered enough. I'm going to speak to Roman, check that we are going to replace this trigger unit, and then there'll be another video of me putting it back together with slightly less oil very shortly. Thank you all for watching. Please like, subscribe, hit notifications, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.